Hey, everyone!
Hey, everyone. How is everyone doing today? Welcome to another episode of
The BookMarks! Yes! This is the podcast where we discuss the hottest books on the market today. And we've got a
Sizzling books.
really excellent one. We will be reviewing Of Flesh and Foam, the untold story of the greatest puppeteer who ever lived, by Dr. Terry Anderson. This is a beautiful book, but
it's a great book. We're excited to talk about it.
I thought it was
excellent.
Great.
You're supposed to wait a little longer.
We were
We had
gonna
an
introduce this.
introduction.
Okay,
all
do it one more
right,
time.
so-
Do it one more time. They still don't know who I am. Just do it one time.
Welcome everyone
pressure.
to the BookMarks.
To the BookMarks! Hooray!
Hooray! This is Kennifer Bookerson.
Kennifer is my older brother. It's been a while since he reached out to me, but he was really excited about being on this
I am
podcast.
so excited to be here as the first guest on your wonderful podcast. I mean, I'm all about all about books, all about reading and shit like that. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah.
I thought the last time you read a book was 7th grade.
All right. But, bottom line is I'm proud of you, and I'm really excited to, talk about books and all that. It's my pleasure to be here, y'all.
Yeah.
Right.
We're happy
And with
to have
that,
Kennifer.
we are going to go to
Let's head to commercial.
the commercial.
This is my time?
Yeah, this is the commercial space.
Okay. This is a commercial break. This is commercial because it's commercial break time. I did, in fact, pay for this.
A lot, actually.
We really appreciate that too, by the way.
No,
we had some
it's
trouble
my-
selling commercial space last time, so I really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
you.
It was
the
my
lights on.
absolute,
Yeah, thanks.
It was my absolute pleasure. So I wanted to take this time right now because what better fitting on a podcast about reading books to tell stories about my little bro.
Oh, I like
So,
that.
I want to
You want
start
to
off.
tell? You want to tell stories?
I want to start off.
Okay,
I want to
like-
start off with a cute one. I'll give you a cute one on the easy one. There was this girl. Remember Lily?
Yeah, for sure. Okay,
You
no,
remember
why?
her, right? Remember her, right? From 3rd grade.
We don't have to talk
And the
about.
Rice
We don't have to
Krispies?
talk about Lily, right? With
What happened?
He used to bring them to school for her.
You brought them to school for this girl?
It was like a whole thing, and like he would use it like propose, like do a whole like thing. But she was ripping them up. She was ripping them up and throwing them out. She was never eating
Let's
them.
not forget
There was
where I
another
got that
time-
idea
there was
from. Let's
another
not forget
time-
where I got that idea from, Ken. Because I took that straight from your playbook. I don't know if you got that from a stupid movie.
I was
but
doing
that was
flowers.
straight from your
I was doing
playbook, 'cause
flowers.
You
Mine
remember?
were
Flowers instead of Rice
dandelions.
Krispie treats.
You remember Veronica and how you gave her chocolate and she was allergic and she had an allergic reaction
All right.
in front of the whole class.
The other time,
you remember that?
The other time,
Okay.
just a couple years after the fact, Marcus on stage, getting ready to do his saxophone solo.
I didn't know you played the saxophone.
This is kind of a low blow, don't you think?
No, I don't. A low blow for sure, because all I asked you to do was wear a belt, but you didn't want to, and so whose pants fell down?
Oh my god. Oh no.
Okay, well,
Yes.
Wait, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question just right now? You had to wear the Mermaid Man and Barnacle?
Yeah, okay, did you have to
Oh, I
wear
love SpongeBob.
diapers in the 2nd grade because you were still having troubles regulating your bowels? Did that
That
happen?
was a medical condition.
And it's one I'm sure you still have, isn't it?
No, I
Mark,
don't.
did you wait? Hold on, go back.
Nope,
Did you
go
really,
forward,
Did your pants
fast
really
forward.
fall down
In the 5th
on
grade.
stage?
In the
Fast
5th
forward,
grade. In the 5th grade.
zoom past
And
it.
he was wearing SpongeBob boxers in
This
the
is
5th
like
grade.
not
Yes,
even a
he
point.
I'm gonna
Okay.
remember that, and I'm gonna use.
You know,
that
you
later.
wanna go low.
Blackmail.
Look, I'll put the bow on it. It was Christmas
Do not
morning,
tell the Chris.
brand new bike. Brand new bike. Brand new bike. We
This is the
got
line,
twin
Ken.
bikes.
Ken,
I got a
this
bike.
is the line you're crossing.
I got a
it.
bike, and he got
You're
a bike.
crossing the line, Ken.
I got a bike. He got a bike.
Ken, if you step over this line, Ken, you are not coming back from this.
Because we had a ramp for our scooters at the time. He's like, I'm gonna jump it.
I will bury you, Ken.
Landed it too hard, and the wheel popped off on Christmas morning. Broke his gift.
Oh no.
Guess who never got a bike
You wanna
ever
talk
again?
about, you wanna talk about holidays, Ken? You're so excited to talk about holidays. You wanna talk about Thanksgiving? I can go to Thanksgiving right now.
No. We'll wrap it up.
Thanksgiving?
Wrap it up. I'll leave
Okay,
it.
you wanna
Leave
wrap
it.
up your
Leave
commercial
it.
space? Okay,
Leave
cool.
it.
Sounds
Leave it.
good to me. Sounds good. So let's finish
I
up.
appreciate this time. This has been BookMarks. Thank you.
Jeez.
Goodbye.
So this week's book is Of Flesh and Foam, The Untold Story of the Greatest Puppeteer Who Ever Lived by Dr. Terry Anderson.
Just a remarkable author, too. I really can't state that enough. Shows real sympathy for the plight, and I guess empathy also, for the plight that a lot of puppet people go through, primarily the subject of this book, right?
Well, he has an entire chapter devoted to marionettes and an entire chapter devoted to hand puppets and the history of it. And actually, it was the other way around. It was the hand puppets first, and then it was the marionettes, because it starts out with like the Punch and Judy of back in the day in the Middle Ages, and then it moves on to the marionette work, and then there's a lot of inclusion about the Muppets, and there's some text about Jim Henson and how this Grand Master, whose name was Joe Stevenson, who was incredible. He came from a very, very humble beginnings.
Truly the greatest puppeteer to ever live.
Well, that was the title of the book.
That's correct, Ken.
And this guy, he taught Jim Henson the business. He fought for puppet rights. It turns out that he has a daughter who's a quarter puppet.
Quarter puppet, yeah.
A quarter puppet, which is just incredible. I mean, you learn something new every day, but this guy single-handedly is the creator of the puppet civil rights movement of the last 25 years. This guy has really...
A pioneer.
I think actually was like instrumental in funding, in kind of creating the puppets for equal access to contracts with equity, right? The Peace Fund?
Yes, because as we all know, most puppets work in Hollywood or in some sort of entertainment or media, and they were not being protected by the law.
They did not have unionized rights.
They couldn't. They weren't allowed because they were puppets, because they were felt and they had hands up their butts.
They were actually an unprotected class under the Constitution. Exactly. And this guy pushed for them to be included as a protected class, as a protected group, under law, under Constitution, which really gave puppets a lot more rights than they had before, as sort of second class citizens. Exactly. Ken, I'd love to know sort of which section of this book really stood out to you, because we have that kind of early section where we're kind of outlining a lot of the history, and then we start kind of going into Stevenson's life, and then, sort of those twilight years. Right. So which section of the book really stood out for you?
Well, I mean, I'll lead with the fact that I really enjoyed the entire book as a whole. From beginning to end, I really think that the story
that's broad.
That's good though, right? Because you love a book that's good from top to bottom.
Yes, but was there a specific chapter that you liked, Ken?
Well, I think if I sat here and I took the time to really pick one, it would be taking away from the ultimate impact that the entire story has as a whole. So I don't think that it's my job to decide which one is the best or which one is my favorite, because I love them all. I thought they all were important to telling this full scope of like y'all said, puppet rights, and it wasn't before.
Okay, but Ken, certainly there was like one chapter that stood out to you, right? Like Gumby's Gambit was what I'd say my favorite chapter is, right? Which one of these stood out to you above the other ones? Because I certainly think some chapters are better than others.
I really enjoyed the first chapter. I really enjoyed the first chapter. I really think that it set the stage. Puppets: A New Beginning. I really think that it set a new.
That's not the name of the first chapter. That's how the.
No, and it's also the shortest chapter. It was only about a page and a half.
It was really more of an introduction.
Well,
it was.
I don't even think it was written by Anderson.
Well, it was great.
Hey,
it was great. It was great, and I enjoyed it the best. That's how I feel.
Ken, come here for a second. Okay. Ken.
What's up?
you read this book, right? Like, that was the whole thing. We were going to have you on the podcast, and you'd read the book, and we'd all talk about the book together.
I did read the book. I read the first 3 chapters, and I read the back, and I read a little bit about the author online.
Okay, and then you read the chapters after the 3rd chapter to the end of the book, right? Because that's what you do on a book. You can't talk about a book.
No, I read the first 3 chapters, and out of that, my favorite was the first chapter. It's like I said.
Ken, you're joking, right?
I am not joking. Nope. You asked me to read the book, and I read the book. I don't understand what the problem is.
I asked you to read the book, and you read the first 3 chapters of the book. You don't see what the problem is?
Is that the book?
That's not the book. That's the first 3 chapters of the book. If I ask you to go pick me up soup, and then you drive the first 3 miles to go get my soup, did you get me soup, or did you drive 3 miles into that drive, Ken?
But I'm still ultimately gonna bring you some type of soup. I don't understand.
Except you're not gonna bring me soup, Ken,
really
because
sensitive.
you didn't.
You're being really sensitive right now.
I'm being sensitive.
And
I'm being sensitive.
Yes,
Marquelle, he's saying I'm being sensitive. I'm being sensitive.
Well, okay. I mean, I think that it might be a good idea to move away from the summary and start talking about our actual thoughts about the
I think
book.
that's a great idea. I have many thoughts. Yeah.
I did too, but Mark, what were your personal thoughts about this week's book of Flesh and Foam, The Untold Story of the Greatest Puppeteer Who Ever Lived by Dr. Terry Anderson?
I have a lot of thoughts on this book, actually. I think it was just sort of riveting, and I kind of want to talk about some of those more tender moments in the book. You know, I just thought it was beautiful talking about how his daughter, who was technically born one-fourth puppet.
Yeah, on her great grandmother's side. Yeah.
Exactly, and how that sort of not only affected sort of their own relationship growing up, but how they had to grow to understand that while there may physically be strings on them, that doesn't give them the right to control one another. You know, it doesn't give them power over one another.
And the same thing with the hand puppets. Just because you're being controlled up your butt doesn't mean that you aren't control of your life. It's a beautiful analogy.
Well, sorry. Continue.
Do you have some thoughts?
No.
Did you?
Not at all.
You have something you want to say, Ken?
Not at all.
Well, if you would like to share your thoughts.
It's not my area. It's not my... And you were right earlier. I didn't read all of the book, so I think that my expertise is coming to an end. So I will just listen.
Okay.
All right, then. Cool.
So I really liked the chapter where they were talking about how Miss Piggy had the facial reconstruction surgery after that accident.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
I mean, it was a little bit gruesome, but if you're into that kind of thing, if you're not, you might want to skip it. It's pretty gross.
And to think that with no medical training, just sheer knowledge of puppets and puppet anatomy, how this man was able to pioneer a whole new area of sciences.
Of puppet medicine. It's
puppet
incredible.
Medicine, exactly.
Yes.
Wrote multiple books on the anatomy of puppets. Lectured at, I think, it was Harvard,
Yale,
Cambridge for like a year.
MIT. He's been everywhere.
I go to a puppet lecture. I go to a puppet lecture.
Have you?
TED Talk. Yeah, I think it'd be interesting.
And it was almost by being that sort of... It was almost by being so invested in not only the heart of puppets, but the literal heart of puppets.
The literal heart of puppets.
Exactly.
It
was beautiful.
Exactly.
I mean...
Way to simp it out, little bro.
Come on, the guy did some cool stuff, and I just want to, I think he has an awesome job, and I think he's done multiple awesome jobs, and I think that should be respected,
Oh, thoughts?
No, not at all.
If you have thoughts, feel free to, you're a guest on the podcast, feel free to share.
I think you'd be the best puppeteer there is. And that's my genuine opinion. I think think you'd be good at anything. You'd put.
What do you mean by that?
Nothing. Continue, please. I just feel like sometimes you always have your hand up my ass trying to do what I'm trying to do. And so I just.
Oh my gosh.
It's fun. And so this is your podcast. This is your thing. I'm very proud of you, and I want you to be great at it. So please, excuse my interjection there. I apologize.
Marquelle, would you like to speak, I guess?
I mean, I think by reading this book, we can establish that anybody who starts out from really humble means, like Joe Stevenson did, can become an incredible person. But, that's not to say that the average person can't be interesting too. I mean, there's that whole chapter where he's talking about his sister who was not puppet, who had nothing to do with the puppet life, and she had a really interesting life. There was a little bit of a love story there. I mean, like regular people.
I think that regular people have a very important job, and that is to be regular people. I think that if you identify as a regular person, please continue to be the excellent, mundane, run-of-the-mill, regular person that you are. Because without
Can you dial it back a little, please, Ken?
Okay.
Without regular people, we wouldn't have interesting people by comparison. And
oh
my God.
I think it's a great point you're making there.
So, I mean,
in terms of the usefulness of regular people.
Whoa, the usefulness. I mean, there are people who might have legitimately mundane skills, but those things can make them really cool.
Mundane just has such a negative connotation, though, right?
I mean, but we're talking about the average person here. I mean, some people have to work for a living. I'm sorry, but there it is. You guys come from money. Some of us actually have to do things. It's important to take care of these important things so we can look out for our family, for our sisters who might need braces, and we might not be able to afford them without putting in the work.
All right. I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick and then get some air. But I'll be right back.
We're in the middle of a podcast. Oh.
We're still recording. No, we need you to. You can't.
Wow.
You can't just.
Your brother is.
Gosh.
I don't even know what to think of that.
It's, sometimes you're born and then someone else is born and they have the same parents as you. And I would describe our relationship as something like that. I don't, no, that's, but hey, he wanted to come on the show,
yes,
and he came on the show, and then he left the show.
Yeah, and I think that might be a good time for us to take another commercial break. So yeah, this is going to be Ken's commercial. Ken is going to talk about himself, I think.
A date with me? Oh, what would it be like? It would be candlelit. We would get on a boat ride and we'd have dinner on the boat. There'd be a man singing in French. I'd be dressed down in the freshest, most expensive gear. You'd be the most beautiful woman I ever seen, cause that's only what you're gonna be when you with the Ken Master. And I am a master at work, constantly at work, trying to make sure that you my queen, that you're taken care of, that you're important, So come hang out with me. Go on a date with me. Give me one chance. I promise. I will make you feel like the greatest woman that's ever lived. Because I know that you are. Hit me up on Ken's Lions Den on Instagram, Ken's Lions Den _ on Twitter. And that's where you can find your boy. Peace.
All right, now comes the part of the podcast where we have our closing thoughts. Mark, what did you think about Flesh and Foam, the untold story of the greatest puppeteer who ever lived?
I loved the book. I think it was a great, wonderful, beautiful journey of learning about humanity almost, and how you don't need to be a human to be a person. I thought that was just wonderful to kind of follow the journey and follow a key figure in gaining rights for puppets that really nowadays we sort of take for granted, you know?
We really do. Yeah, we really do. Yeah, my feelings are similar. I really was touched by the different scenes and including his family and his family history, and I learned so much about puppets in the first part. Are you okay?
Am I? What do you mean?
Just I keep thinking about this weird interaction between you and Kennifer.
Me and Ken?
Yeah, I mean, just like I've never seen anybody talk to their sibling like that. I mean, you know me and Jess. We're
yeah, you guys are super
peas in
tight.
a pod. We're super close, and just like I couldn't imagine her talking to me like that, and just like I would not be okay with that.
Oh, me and Ken are always like that, I guess. You know, I get how that could be a little jarring, you know, but sort of growing up, you know, mom and dad were kind of gone a lot for work reasons, and so it was really kind of just me and Ken. And maybe the way we communicate isn't the healthiest. It could probably use a change, and he could probably use a change in attitude, because, yeah, he is kind of a lot. But I honestly think Ken's kind of like these puppets, right? Because he has been given a lot going into life, and he's got a lot that's kind of already going for him, but he kind of just has to open his eyes up to what, you know, his like true potential is and his true abilities, and kind of like how Stevenson, you know, was able to show these puppets that, you know, they are worth more. I think maybe when Ken realizes that he really is a cool guy, and he leans into that part instead of the part of him that kind of pretends he's a cool guy, you know, he'll become a cool guy.
Yeah,
he's still my brother, though.
One day.
Hey, one of these days, you know. And I think that he's my brother, and I'll always be there for him, because he has always been there for me through a lot of really hard, rough times. And even though he really gets on my nerves, you know, I do still love him.
Aw. Well, on that note, we're going to have to tie this up. This has been the latest episode of the Bookmarks with me, Marquelle Bookerson.
And me, Mark Bookerson. No relation.
No relation.
Crazy how that happened.
Incredible. In a city this big. Anyway, catch us on all the socials, and we will be back next week with another hot read. See you later.
Later. Starring the vocal talents of Mark Bookerson as Cody Smith.
Marquelle Bookerson, played by Virginia Lee.
Ken Bookerson, played by Cameron Hodges.
Our podcast is supported by people like you. You can support us and other shows made by WGC by subscribing to WGC Productions on Patreon. And you can follow us at WithGoodCo on Instagram and Twitter, and at WGC Productions on Tumblr and Facebook.